Okay, let's look at file tests. When we're listing out any file or really looking at any file, it doesn't need to be through listing. We can learn various things about the file by using functions provided by OS. And I should emphasize that anything you can do in the operating system or anything that you think the operating system can do should be possible through Python functions. We're only looking at just a couple of the functions that make it possible, but you should also be able to find out when a file was modified, when it was first created, what the permissions are on the file. This would be for Unix only, and various other details about the file that the OS customarily provides. In this case, we're going to look at a directory and we're going to distinguish between the files and directories in this directory. And I guess just for illustration, we'll look at the folders and files that are here in this test directory. Actually, you can see in my project directory, we have two directories. One's the VM folder that's created by PyCharm, and the other is tester, which is a directory that I created for this purpose. I'm going to go ahead and print entry first so that we can just see the full listing. Oh, I'm running the wrong script here. Now you can see it's a listing of all the entries in the directory. Now you can see alongside of the files that you can see. This is a Unix thing. You should not be concerned about this, nor you should be looking for it if you're in Windows. This is a Unix thing. But you see these two dot files. These are actually hidden files that are there, but they're not always displayed. Then we have all the files that we can see. And here at the bottom, you can see we have these two directories. Now, these aren't directories shown at the very end because they're directories. They're only, this is just an alphabetical listing. Now, what I'd like to do is distinguish between the directories and the files by using os path isFile and os path isdir. And we'll do it with isdir as well. Now we're going to be able to see, as we're looping through, what each thing is. Now you can see our last two entries are directories, so we see tester and VM, and all the others are files. And that's interesting too. DSStore, which as I mentioned, is a Mac-generated file that just helps the Macintosh maintain control over its files and directories. That's a file. But .idea, and quite frankly, I don't know what .idea is. It's probably Mac generated as well. But it could also be PyCharm generated. I really have no idea. Is also a directory. Again, these hidden files can usually be ignored unless, you're running into some problem. For instance, if you try to open it and it doesn't let you open it or something like that. These files are not, and these files and directories are not for us to use usually. So normally we just want to skip over them. In fact, since what we're looking at is a string, I could skip over them really quite easily by saying if entry.starts with, remember our old friend starts with. If it starts with a dot, continue. This is just going to skip over any files that start with a dot, any hidden files. So you can see now we're not even looking at them. Okay, great. So we have isdir and isFile. Now I'd like to go after the next one, which is getSize. So why don't I just get the size of every file in our, boy, this is terrible. I better use the format method. I'm going to use getSize for this purpose. So here's entry, and then now I'm going to use, I guess I'm going to slow this down a little. There we go, widen it a little bit. Os path getSize entry. Actually, maybe I'll just bring this down to save space. Okay, I think I need one more paren here, and let's take a look. So now we have a list of the size of each file. Now, once again, I want you to remember that because we're in the local directory, we don't need to prepend any path information. But if we were in some other place, let's say the root directory of the Unix file system, we are going to need to do that. Here I'm going to say entry equals os path join search dir and entry. And this is going to allow me to use the entry variable to list out. Now this is interesting because here, as you can see, oh, I see, that's no good. I better I want to get rid of my, I don't like those hidden files and directories. They bug me. Okay, great. So here, I'm now looping through each entry in the directory, which is actually my root directory. For you, it would be // but this is my root directory, the Unix root directory. I'm listing out every file in the Unix root directory, and as you can see, almost every single one of them is a directory. The only one that isn't is this installer failure request. Now, of course, I don't know what all these things are. I know what a few of them are. Volumes, for example, is the root of any of peripheral drives that I might have. That is drives, like external hard drives or something like this, what volumes is for, among other things. But this is interesting that I can just list out my root directory and see exactly what's in it. I can also do it with my own home directory as well. So exciting stuff, being able to list out and peruse and take a look at and even get the size of every file and directory within a particular directory.